So till now we have seen the two aspects in consumer behavior, and that is affordability coupled with preference, and how the two work in tandem to give us the optimal X and Y for a particular consumer. Okay. Now, this X and Y that is found out is usually a function of basically three parameters. One is price of itself, price of the other good, and the income. Similarly, Y is also dependent on basically three things: PX, PY, and income, M. Right? Now, this is called the demand function of the consumer. तो यहां तक हमने अभी तक देखा है माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स कंज्यूमर बिहेवियर में. ओके. टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू डिफाइन द गुड्स basis how they react to changes in their own price, in the price of the other good, and change in the income. So there are, if I take from the perspective of good X, there are three things that can happen. One is change in income, that is dx dm. If it is positive, that is, if my income is increasing, my consumption of X is also increasing. This kind of a good is called a normal good. So I am going into the definition of the different kinds of goods. Income increasing, consumption of X is decreasing. X is called an inferior good. Changes in the other good, changes in the other good price, dx dpy positive. That is, as the price of Y is increasing, X consumption is increasing. X and Y are substitutes. क्यों होगा सब्स्टिट्यूट? लॉजिकल है ना. प्राइस ऑफ वाई अगर इंक्रीज कर रहा है, वाई इज बिकमिंग मोर एक्सपेंसिव, एक्स का प्राइस इज रिमेनिंग द सेम, सो एक्स इज नाउ द रिलेटिवली चीपर गुड. सो आई एम सब्स्टिट्यूटिंग माई कंजम्पशन फॉर द चीपर गुड vis-a-vis the more expensive good now. Since Y is the more expensive good, I substitute the consumption of Y by buying more X. Okay, so X and Y are substitutes. Similarly, dx dpy negative, X and Y will be complements. Okay, and last but not the least, changes in px, dx dpx negative, law of demand holds. यही होता है ना. Price increases, X consumption is decreasing, law of demand holds. dx dpx positive, प्राइस ऑफ एक्स इंक्रीज हो रहा है, एक्स का कंजम्पशन भी इंक्रीज हो रहा है. दिस वॉज फर्स्ट ऑब्जर्व्ड बाय द इकोनॉमिस्ट गिफिन एंड इट्स नेम्ड आफ्टर हिम. दिस काइंड ऑफ अ गुड इज कॉल्ड अ गिफिन गुड. सही है. तो ऐसा टाइप का गुड को बोलते हैं गिफिन गुड. राइट. तो ये हो गया अलग अलग डेफिनेशन ऑफ गुड्स. नाउ, a giffen good will always be inferior. Giffen will always imply that the good has to be inferior. But vice versa is not true. All inferior good may or may not be given. ठीक है. So all given are inferior but not the other way around. Okay. इसके अलावा there are a few properties of demand functions. मैं प्रॉपर्टीज के प्रूफ्स में नहीं जा रहा हूं. इट्स ऑलरेडी देयर ऑन द स्टूडेंट पोर्टल. सो फर्स्ट प्रॉपर्टी इज that demand function is homogeneous of degree 0. Demand function is homogeneous of degree 0. That basically means that if I uh, if X is a function of Px, Py, and M, if I increase Px, Py, and M all in the same proportion, the demand remains unchanged. Okay. Number two, both goods X and Y cannot be inferior together. तो अगर एक good is inferior, the other good has to be normal. Okay. And third, price elasticity of demand plus cross price elasticity of demand plus income elasticity of demand. I'm taking from the perspective of X, this summation has to always be equal to zero. So these are a few properties of the demand function that are good to know. ये सब का proof is already uploaded on the student portal. Please see it. Okay. Detailed proofs are given for each one of them. So these are a few properties of the demand function. It's a good idea to take a look at a few questions now before going into the uh, price effects, substitution effect, and income effect. Okay. So let's take a look at a couple of questions before we go there. ISI 2024 PEA question number 27. A consumer consumes two goods X and Y. It is observed that the consumer's consumption of good X always falls when the price of X falls. So basically, dx dpx is positive. Px falls, X falls, both are in the same direction. So dx dpx is positive. That means that X is a given good. Suppose that the consumer's income increases given that the prices of X and Y. What will happen to the consumer's consumption of X? Given good will always imply that the good is inferior. Inferior would always mean dx dm negative. So consumer's income is increasing, consumption of X has to decrease. B, Bombay. Consumption of X has to decrease. ठीक है? Fair? Inherently, when we were doing properties of the demand function, we talked about the concept of elasticity very subtly. We talked about it, and it is obviously a good time to basically give you a very quick recap into elasticity. So, EPX is basically own price elasticity, percentage change in quantity of X divided by percentage change in the price of X. ECX is cross price elasticity. That's basically percentage change in the quantity consumed of X divided by percentage change in the price of the other good. That's PY. And EMX is basically percentage change in the quantity X divided by the percentage change in the money income. Okay. And whenever the elasticity is whatever be the elasticity, if it is greater than one, it's called elastic demand, and less than one is called inelastic. Okay. So this is ISI 2022 PA question number 27. Let EI be the price elasticity of demand for a good X of consumer I at a price P naught given its demand function. Consumers do not consume identical amounts of X at P naught. Then the price elasticity of demand at price P naught for the aggregate demand function for X is what? So let's go ahead and take a look at it. X is the total x1 प्लस x2 डॉट 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 xn, ये है ना? दिस इज व्हाट इट इज, राइट? या 2 3 अप टू n, ओके, ठीक है। 2 से चालू है, consumption by consumer 2, consumer 3 up to consumer n, and this is the aggregate demand. So in order to find out what is the aggregate elasticity, I differentiate with respect to P naught throughout. Then I multiply by P naught and I divide by X throughout. Then what I do is I need X2 here, so I multiply and I divide by X2. Then I multiply and I divide by X3, and I multiply and I divide by xn. ये तो इलास्टिसिटी हो गया, एग्रीगेट इलास्टिसिटी E, okay, is equal to, this can be written as dx2 dp naught into p naught by x2 into x2 by x plus dx3 dp naught into p naught by x3 into x3 by capital X, dxn dp naught into p naught by xn into xn by x. So x2 by x is the share of the second good in x. What percentage share? Since x2, x3, all of these are not identical. If all of them would be identical, then all of them would be basically 1 by n minus 1 of x, right? Since all of them are not identical, this I call as S2, and this is nothing but elasticity of good 2, of consumer 2, plus S3 into elasticity of consumer 3, Sn into elasticity of consumer n. That is what we have, right? Consumers do not consume identical amounts of X at P naught. They are not consuming identical. So X2, X3, Xn are not all equal. ठीक है, तो वो assumption definitely मत करिएगा. Then the price elasticity of demand at P naught is basically the summation of this. SI answer. This is what option D. ठीक है, क्लियर है? तो ये इलास्टिसिटी का क्वेश्चन भी हमने कर लिया. ठीक है, this is, I'm ending the poll now. So this is ISI 2020, question number 20. Suppose you were to believe that money illusion exists. Money illusion exists का मतलब कि if my money income and the prices are all increasing in the same proportion, then actually I'm not getting any richer. But money illusion is existing. मतलब कि everything increasing in the same proportion, and the consumer has the illusion that because his money has increased, his purchasing power has increased. Okay. Which of the following statement about demand should not be true? So if this is true, then demand function homogeneous of degree 0 is not possible. because homogeneous of degree zero implies no money illusion. So if money illusion is existing, so this particular property cannot hold. Clear? So we have considered the different demand function and the reaction to the prices and the income on the demand for a particular good. But we have not yet seen that what are the different uh, effects that a particular price change actually has on the demand for a particular good. So if I consider the good X and the price of X is supposing falling, it has two effects. First thing that is happening is because price of X has reduced, the purchasing power has changed. And because price of X has reduced, relatively X is now cheaper. Now, if we were to understand both of these effects in isolation, then we need to take a look at the theory of substitution effect, income effect, and price effect. Okay. So price of X is changing. The change, entire X change is called the price effect. Price of X changing, what is the entire effect on X is price effect. Okay. Price of X changing, I keep purchasing power constant, price of X changing, keeping purchasing power constant. What is the effect on the demand of X? Because X is now more cheaper, to consider and to understand what is the effect of X being relatively cheaper by keeping purchasing power constant is called the substitution effect. Now, after having already changed the price of X, now giving the extra purchasing power to the consumer, I have something called the income effect. Now, the income effect, substitution effect is say SE, income effect is IE. The income effect in collaboration with the substitution effect gives us the total price effect. Okay. This is best understood by a diagram. Let's take a look at a diagram. We have an original budget line, BL, price of X reduces, BL है original budget line, price of X reduces. So let's consider original BL, price of X goes down, we get BL dash. So when we had the bundle A, supposing this is called the bundle A, this is called the bundle C. Bundle A is consuming X naught. At bundle C, my consumption is say X2. Okay. Now the movement from A to C, because price of X falls, Budget line shifts from BL to BL dash. This movement from A to C is called the price effect. Okay. But the movement from A to C entails two internal effects which are important for an economist to realize and to understand. These two internal effects are the substitution effect and the income effect. Substitution effect is keeping purchasing power constant. Now, the economist Slutsky basically said that you keep the purchasing power constant, by ensuring that the original bundle that the consumer was consuming is exactly affordable at the new prices. And while doing so, the consumer is able to move on a healthier indifference curve. Or, in other words, just by making X the relatively cheaper good in comparison to Y, keeping the purchasing power constant, I am being able to move from x naught to a point x1, and this movement from x naught to x1 is called the substitution effect. Let's call this budget line BSLS. BSLS is the substitution effect budget line, and I get a movement from x naught to x1. Now, income effect is a movement from BSLS to BL dash. So then I move to, I call this point B. Then I move to the budget line BL dash, and I get a movement from x1 to x2. This movement is called income effect. This movement was called substitution effect. So a movement from x0 to x1 is the substitution effect. X1 to x2 is the income effect. And this entire movement from x0 to x2 was the price effect. Hence, when I said here that income effect plus substitution effect is equal to price effect, this is what I meant. That x0 to x1 is the substitution effect, x1 to x2 is the income effect. So if I take both the substitution effect and income effect together, I get the price effect. Okay. So this is basically to understand theoretically that if the price of any good is changing, many things are happening in the background. Purchasing power of the consumer is changing. X and Y, which is now the relatively cheaper good, and if they are substitutes, I will uh, start consuming a higher quantity of the relatively cheaper good. So all of this is just happening in the background, एंड आपको सीधा सीधा खाली नजर आ रहा है प्राइस इफेक्ट. यू आर बीइंग एबल टू सी ओनली द प्राइस इफेक्ट prima facie, but things that are happening in the background are the substitution effect and the income effect. Both are happening in the background. And the economist Slutsky basically gave us the definition that how do you keep the purchasing power constant? Making we keep the purchasing power constant by making the original bundle exactly affordable at the new price. Okay. तो ये हो गया substitution effect, and this x1 to x2 is my income effect. There is another definition, however, that is given by Hicks. Hicks basically said purchasing power constant means that the consumer has to be on the same utility function. This entire exercise is given in a lot of detail on the student portal. If you are not able to understand any aspect, please take a look at the video that is available on the portal. That will be there in a lot of detail. All right. So this is my substitution effect, income effect, and price effect. It will be a good idea to take a look at a couple of problems. ISI 2017 sample paper question 17. RIA has a demand function for mango juice, which is this. Q is equal to 0.02 M can be written as M by 50 minus 2P, where M is the income and P is the price. RIA's income is 6,000 and she initially has to pay a price of 30. So Q 6,000 divided by 50 cuts. This is 120 minus 2 into price of 30 minus 60. Quantity is 60 originally. Now the price of mango juice rose to 40. Now in order to keep the purchasing power constant, he should be able to purchase the same quantity. Okay. I only have to find the substitution effect. So same quantity अगर मैं खरीदना चाहूँ तो कितना extra income should I have? Because the price of mango juice were earlier 30, now it is 40. So the price of mango juice has increased by 10 and he was consuming 60. So he needs additional 600 rupees in order to keep the purchasing power constant. So the new income as per the substitution effect, I call it M dash, is 6,000 original income plus I need to increase it by 600 to keep the purchasing power constant in the event of a price increase. So the substitution effect of the price change is what? Q is now equal to M becomes 6,600 divided by 50 minus 2 into price is 40. So this is basically 120, 132 minus 80. So this is 52. So earlier the quantity was 60. Under substitution effect, the quantity has now decreased. It has decreased by 8. Is this clear? I am keeping purchasing power constant. If I need to keep the purchasing power constant and the price of mango juice has increased from 30 to 40, so it's an increase of 10 rupees. So in order to keep the purchasing power constant, I need to give to the consumer the extra money to compensate him for the increase of 10 rupees. He was consuming quantity 60. The increase is 10. So 10 into 60 is the additional income that the consumer must have in order to compensate him for the increase in price of the mango juice. Am I being clear? If I am, type C in the chat box. Therefore, the new money income has to be 6,600. You can think about it in this way also, that originally Q was equal to 60. So the expenditure on mango juice is 60 into 30, which is 1800. And the expenditure on other good is 4,200. Okay. Now, this is my original bundle. That 60 quantity is being spent on mango juice and other goods expenditure is 4,200. Okay. Now, in order to keep the purchasing power constant, 60 into 40, 2,400, and the expenditure on the other good has to remain the same. It cannot reduce. So if I add the two, I get 6,600. तो ऐसे भी सोच सकते हैं कि substitution effect का money income is 6,600. Yeah, the way that we did, you can think about it in any way, whatever is more suitable or more understandable to you.